Welcome to Radicalize Me. Today we're going to talk about a guy named John Titor. Well, we don't know if he was a guy. We don't know if he ever existed. John Titor was an alleged time traveler who supposedly posted on some forums in the early 2000s, leading to an ongoing urban legend that is still talked about to this day. You might have heard of John Titor before. The story has been told plenty of times, and we are going to go over what happened in case you don't know. But rather than just talk about the mystery, I want to talk about the politics of John Titor and why I think his description of the future he lives in kind of gives away that he's just some boomer guy, probably. One of my favorite videos about John Titor is this first one from Watcher. Watcher is a group of guys who used to work at BuzzFeed, and they would do these kind of mystery things. They call it mystery files now. And they would tell these mystery stories, or they would, go to friggin' haunted houses or what, stuff like that. So let's jump into it. I think you'll enjoy this depiction of it. And again, we're going to talk a little about the politics of John Titor.
Welcome to Mystery Files, where we take a deep dive into cases that span from the creepy to the truly bizarre and everything in between. I'm Shane, and today I'll be forcing my colleague Ryan to hear all about one of the internet's most infamous alleged time travelers.
So what's kind of funny about this is Shane actually usually plays the role of the skeptic, and then Ryan is more the believer when it comes to like supernatural stuff, aliens, ghosts, whatever. But in this one, they're both skeptics. So take that as you will.
John Titor. In the end, you'll have to decide if this mystery is solved or if it's simply a mystery.
I've never even heard of this guy before.
Well, you're about to learn about him.
Now you're saying alleged time traveler.
Well, yeah, because I guess if it were confirmed,
We'd all be time traveling.
we'd be time traveling.
Where'd you be?
Where would I go? Where would I go? I would ride a T-Rex.
You would ride a T-Rex.
I'd lasso a T-Rex. I'd be riding around on him.
Have you ever lassoed anything in your entire life?
I've lassoed.
I want to hear your answer in the comments. But my answer, so a lot of people say that they would go back in time and do something to a certain German guy. I feel like I can't really say either of those things on YouTube, probably, but that's what a lot of people say they would do. Now, I would do the same thing, but not to the German guy. I would do it to Andrew Wakefield, a British man who started the modern anti-vaccine craze.
I'm going forward, by the way. I'm going into the future.
And what are you gonna do there?
So much. And then I'm gonna get information about the past, and I'm gonna come back and use that information.
Well, I think you'll find out that's actually frowned upon.
I saw it once in a movie.
Son of a bitch stole my idea.
On November 2nd, 2000, a user named timetravel_0 replied to a thread titled Time Travel Paradoxes! On an online forum called the Time Travel Institute. This is the first online correspondence on record from the notorious temporal traveler who would come to be known as John Titor. This is where Time Travel_0, also known to the hardcore John Titor fans as TT0.
And I also have to say, I kind of feel like a boomer for still focusing on this story 25 years later, right along with these guys who are around my age. It's like the millennial DB Cooper or something. You got to remember, in the 90s and early 2000s, the internet was the Wild West. As much as you think today, like, Twitter's crazy or whatever, like, everything was Twitter now. The way Twitter is since Elon Musk is what the whole internet was. Like, there are still ways to be anonymous now, but everyone was anonymous. You had no idea who was behind any post or avatar. Like, our parents told us, never use your real name or any information, any identifying information about yourself ever online. Like, oh, people are gonna get you. They're gonna figure out who you are, and they're gonna do something. Of course, our parents now are the ones falling for all the dumbest shit on Facebook.
We're calling this guy time travel_0. It says time travel_01.
Yes, so there's some discrepancy there. It changed at some point. Time travel?
Maybe we're seeing the effects of the butterfly.
Let's keep going. Quote, wow.
It's definitely not that it's bullshit.
The basics for time travel start at CERN in about a year and end in 2034 with the first time machine built by GE. Too bad we can't post pictures or I show it to you. Now, the people on the forum obviously had questions. Specifically, one superfan named Pamela, who offered to help TT0 subvert the rules by posting pictures for him. And she even managed to have an extensive Q&A with the elusive alleged time traveler. In the messages they exchanged, and in his own later posts on the Art Bell web forum, Titor described extensively how he time traveled. He detailed.
So he just mentioned Art Bell there. Art Bell was a radio host, and there was a time traveler who called in or sent a message into the show. They're going to talk about this later. Right around this time, and people speculate that was also John Titor, but we don't know that. He didn't name himself. But if you've never listened to Art Bell, go to YouTube, type in Coast to Coast AM, and listen away. Start with Mel's Hole if you don't know where to start. And it's about a guy who finds a magic hole in his backyard. This shit is incredible. I wish I had listened in real time to this show. It was during my lifetime. This was late 80s, early 90s, up until late 2010s when Art Bell died. But that's how long the show ran. And it was an AM radio show. People call in with crazy stories. It's just incredible. You have to listen.
John told Pamela that he was born in 1998, meaning if he existed...
Gen Z!
Oh, he's Gen Z.
Meaning if he existed in our world line, he would currently be 26 years old.
Sick.
Yeah. But according to his world line, in 2005, when he was 7 years old, the U.S. broke into civil war following a tumultuous election in 2004. The war lasted a decade, and...
Which is funny because 2004 was probably the most boring election that we've had in the 21st century. John Kerry just face planted, and that was it.
In 2011, at the age of 13, Titor became a rebel child soldier, forced to wield a shotgun for the Fighting Diamondbacks, a Florida infantry unit, until the war ended in 2015.
So we avoided this timeline, I'm guessing, because TT Man prevented this from happening.
Maybe.
And then is now just sharing his exploits and tales of heroism in this forum with Pamela.
Quite possibly. You know, he can't divulge.
Oh, I wonder if he ceased to exist because of the new world line. But then, who went back and did whatever he did?
So the Civil War ended in 2015, or rather, the Civil War became small potatoes at the start of a global war that same year. As political destabilization followed in governments across the world, Russia launched nuclear attacks across the US, China, and...
Okay, now this is the first indication to me that this is a boomer politics exercise. Russia's gonna fire their nukes. Because this, obviously, it's not the Soviet Union anymore, but boomers grew up under the Soviet Union during the height of the Cold War, Khrushchev, Kennedy, the nuclear scare, where they had to hide under their desks and all this stupid crap, right? So this, to me, just sounds a little too much like boomer political anxieties working its way into the story John Titor was weaving. But just a small one, just to start. Let's see what happens next.
Europe. World War III was quick and brutal and killed almost half of the world's population. According to Titor, most of the U.S.'s major cities were destroyed. So the capital obviously moved to... Say it with me. Omaha, Nebraska. The new U.S. government split the nation into 5 regions based on their unique geopolitical factors. Each region was given their own president, ruling together at the federal level. States' rights lived at the center of civic ideals, and massive power shifts engendered by the two-party political system were finally alleviated. This is John's world.
Amazing. I love this. So let's go back for a second.
Say it with me. Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, so first of all, the capital moves to Omaha, Nebraska, middle America, right? I mean, fair. The capital was blown up, fine. So it moves to Omaha, Nebraska, middle America, the real America, right? And through this, along with half the world's population dying and America breaking into regions and focusing more on states' rights, that to me sounds like boomer conservative shit. And the fact that we'll get more into this in a sec, but the halving of the world's population ends up being a positive because we're overpopulated. This overpopulation bullshit was a thing of the 60s and 70s. That's when this idea was really propagating, that somehow all of our problems are due to overpopulation, reducing the population in some way, dealer's choice, I guess. That balances things out in terms of, I don't know, wealth distribution, housing, food, all that stuff.
States' rights lived at the center of civic ideals, and massive power shifts engendered by the two-party political system were finally alleviated.
Oh, yeah.
This is
And breaking apart the two-party system and the division, but not for any particular new kind of politics, not to give regular people or workers or the poor more rights. It's to give states more rights, which is always sold as freedom for you.
Food and livestock are grown and sold locally. People read more. They know how to calculate sums in their heads.
Yeah, because you have to understand, even at this point, 25 years ago, there was, and even before that, but there was this, the kids are looking at the screens too much. They're not reading. They, just moral panics about kids these days. It's always been this way, right? They can do math in their head. They don't need a calculator. They were always telling us that in school. They say you're not going to have a calculator with you all the time when you grow up. And now, of course, we do. But I'm just saying, this was a common adult talking point at the time. This was boomers talking about their kids. So that's why, to me, this just sounds like a guy kind of fantasizing about his kids listening to him and not playing Game Boy so much.
And how to play instruments. Oh, a lovely thought. Trade schools for agriculture or woodworking are popular. People prefer to speak face to face. They take religion seriously. They ride bikes or horses.
Come on. This is ridiculous. It's all this shit. We still hear this stuff now. Go to a trade school, you idiot.
And how to play instruments.
Play instruments. That's one of those things they'll be like, oh, kids don't play instruments anymore. Kids don't play outside anymore. And then no one cites any statistics on these things. They just kind of say it.
People prefer to speak face to face.
Yeah, again, I think text messaging wasn't quite there yet at this time, but we had AOL Instant Messenger or whatever other ones there were at the time. We had the phone. It was again, this is what people were saying about the kids. They don't talk face to face anymore. We used to.
They take religion seriously. They ride bikes or horses to get around.
Why do they not take religion? This guy, John Titor, is just a guy whose kids refuse to go to church.
Around locally. Centralized banks don't exist. Neither do income taxes.
He's just a libertarian.
Doctors make house calls. Why, if you got a disease or an injury they can't fix, end of the line. Time to die.
Oh,
what just happened? As I'm recording this, what just happened 2 days ago was the big, beautiful bullshit bill that's going to take Medicaid away from millions of people. This is the future the right wants, everybody.
Now, it's not that technology doesn't exist. They've got Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, clearly universal in all world lines. Solar energy is the most common form of public power. High-speed trains connect major cities.
Hey,
people
all right.
make their own show.
Look at that. I'll give them those two. That's pretty good for a boomer. To be fair, I don't know if the right had really stated its position on solar panels, high-speed rail. I don't know. Again, I was a kid at this time. I kind of know what was going on, but I don't know. I'm not as tuned into it as I am to stuff now. I think Republicans already were pretty anti-environmentalist. I think there was interest, maybe from all sides, on high-speed rail at the time. You know, we were talking about doing some of that, and then we threw tens of millions of dollars at it, and it never happened because America's not a country that builds shit anymore. It's a country where you throw money at consultants and they fleece you and take all the money, and now public money is private, and we can all get fucked.
And people make their own shows distributed on the internet rather than broadcast networks, which have also...
He predicted YouTube and streaming. How about that? That's pretty cool. To be fair, you know, maybe YouTube wasn't such a crazy idea by then. We're only 5 years from the creation of YouTube at that point. And, you know, we have the internet. We're starting to have like streaming video and stuff. So yeah, it's not a huge stretch to be like, this is where entertainment's going. One day it's going to develop. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that's just being a futurist. I like that.
So fallen. Now, unfortunately for you, Burgoose, even in that world line, there's no new information about UFOs. Though, as a time traveler himself, Titor believed that perhaps aliens were more advanced time travelers. Is that interesting to think about? Huh?
It is kind of funny that even in that world, he's like, aliens, where I draw the line. There is, I don't know if I could say aliens are real. He could have just been like, aliens are walking around everywhere, but...
He's also allegedly only from, you know, a few decades into the future, so...
He does have a time
Yeah,
machine.
but it's not like he's worried about being proven wrong here, right? He told us that there was a civil war that killed half the world's population by, what, 2015, 2020, whatever it was?
Now let's talk about predictions, because that's why we're all here, right?
Sure.
It would be fun if, like, on one of his sign-offs, he was like, this won't make sense now, but hawk tua. And we were like...
And once more, talk to us.
After being asked about the polar ice caps in 2036, he claimed that they were no longer melting at the same rate. He claimed industrial waste and smog production had decreased, as had the average global temperature, implying that in 2036, accelerated global warming was somehow not the massive problem long predicted by the scientific community. So I guess he's suggesting...
Some sort of course-correcting measures taken?
Sure, maybe, right? But you have to remember, this was supposedly after a nuclear war decimated half the world's population just 20 years ago. Though
Is that what a nuclear war looks like? The soldiers marching towards a mushroom cloud. Let's check it out. Fire on the smoke, on my mark.
Though technically a nuclear war could cause global temperatures to decrease, he continued to contradict earlier statements when asked if the sun appeared any different, stating, quote, well, when you can see it through the high-level smoke and haze, not that I'm aware of.
Also, which one is it? Is there smoke and haze or is there not smoke and haze?
I think we got him.
We got him.
Should we wrap it up here? This has been fun.
Mystery solved.
Yeah.
He could have gone harder on his Malthusian, like Thanos, cut the population in half thing and said, like, well, you know, the industrial waste decreased because of that. But he didn't.
Now to the elephant in the room, which is that so far, the future that John Titor described has not come true. Even at all. Even a little bit. I mean, there's always the theory of differing world lines to consider, though even by Titor's calculation, the world line should only be 1% to 2% different, large as world wars never happening.
He literally had no predictions at all?
Titor did get some predictions right. He correctly predicted America would wage war in the Middle East, claiming they had nuclear weapons.
That's a correct prediction anytime between now and like 80 years ago. So let's chill on that point.
But ultimately would fail to find evidence of said weapons of mass destruction, specifically in Iran.
Yeah, that was.
He predicted the
This was not a hard prediction to make in 2000. Sorry.
rise of GMO foods, and predicted that China would send an astronaut into space in 2003.
Hey,
he mentioned
that's cool.
CJD disease, a rare brain disease that leads to dementia and has been linked to mad cow disease, implying it would be problematic in the future. And in fact, in the 2000s, there was a mad cow outbreak with nearly 200 fatalities, but it was largely isolated to the UK.
You could kind of just predict that shit.
Yeah, and also the CJD thing, call it mad cow disease.
So nothing too crazy.
No. Do you think this guy's the real deal?
If I had to put, gun to my head,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with no.
But would you like to believe in him?
Would I like to believe? No, because this guy sounds insufferable.
He does.
Yes.
And if he's right, I don't know if I can handle that.
So we really want to stick it to the TT man.
I think so.
Well, on to the theories. Theory 1. John Titor
Is a jackass.
was in fact a time traveler.
So it's all legit. It's all
All legit. So what was this time traveler even doing, messaging on forums in our world line? Well, Titor claimed to have arrived in 2000 for personal reasons, including seeing family, picking up photos destroyed in the war, and spending time with his toddler self, who felt like a little brother to him. Though it was strange, he admitted, to observe early signs
I forgot there were pictures. I don't know if these are the actual ones. Or...
of his own personality developing.
If there was an older guy that came up to you in the park and he kind of looked like you, like let's say it's Ralph Ineson.
I'd kick him in the nuts. I'd be like, get away, creep.
No, you gotta ask about like weird birthmarks and shit.
His very
But
last
the car
message
doesn't
came on
move.
March 24th, 2001. He signed off saying, bring a gas can with you when your car dies on the side of the road. Farewell, John. This was related to a parable he shared earlier about always being prepared because you can't depend on anyone.
See, that is boomer dad shit. I have a boomer dad. I'm telling you. There's this boomer dad activity. Yeah, the stuff my dad has put in my car, shovels, rain gear, boots, tools. Like, it's, you got to be prepared. If something goes, whatever. If there's a storm and you can't get out of the roads are blocked and you're stuck on the highway for 24 hours, you got to have a sleeping bag. So that's where the John Titor story sits today. No one really knows what this was or who did it. I lean towards Ryan and Shane. I think it was probably some bullshit. But I think, especially as we see things like AI start to propagate more, AI images and, AI written word, along with kind of just the death of truth sort of thing that's happening in society now, it's good to be able to look out for these tells. So if somebody says to you, I'm a time traveler from 2036, you got to look out for these things. Does this person just sound like a boomer who was kind of libertarian and then 20 years later voted for Trump? It's like looking for the hands in the AI images and you're like, they've got 6 fingers. Like, where's that finger coming from? You got to look for those things. In this American scam economy, people are always coming up with new ways to bullshit you, and you got to stay on top of it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Help us out on Patreon or buy me a coffee if you can, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.